If you've been applying to government jobs lately, it is really easy to get confused and lost on USAJobs.gov. So I'm going to share with you 5 tips in order to help you navigate that process and get the government job you want. The first tip is to make sure you're clicking Make My Resume Searchable. So how do you do this? You sign into USA Jobs, click on Documents, and then below your resume, you click Searchable. This will make it searchable for 18 months. Now keep in mind, you can only do this with one resume. So if you have multiple resumes out there, make sure whatever one that you want the most, say it's the 0300 series, make that one searchable. Now, a question that I'm asked often is, do people even use this feature? Do people look through there? Will they reach out, ask me to interview? And the answer is yes, but it will depend on your resume and the skills that you possess. If you don't know, the government has a list. It has an urgent hiring list. It's looking for professionals in the IT space. It's looking for nurses, accounting. There are a lot of job series that need to be filled yesterday. And if you are a good match or a good fit, they can take your resume out of the database, give you a call, send you an email, and ask you to interview. This has happened to multiple people that I know in the past. So even if you don't think your skills are that valuable or you're not that competitive, I would still say make your resume searchable. Also, when it's added to the resume bank, it's going to allow recruiters and HR to not just look at your resume, but they're going to be able to look at your profile. Now, I think the resume matters probably 10 times as much as your profile, but you still want to make sure your profile is filled out. Next is you want to make sure that you're uploading 5 resumes. And why 5 resumes? Because I'm willing to wager right now that you're just not qualified for one. You're qualified for more than one job series. And if you want to give yourself the best possibility to get a high-level GS grade, or maybe just to get into the government, you should really explore and look at each job series that you're qualified for. So one person can easily be qualified for 5, 6, or 7 different job series. And if you are similar to that, you might want to consider having different resumes to match different job series. And you should also probably have a resume that's in the resume builder format. And this is because certain agencies require it. I would say right now, roughly 90% of agencies, they will take an uploaded document as your resume. The other 10% of agencies, they want to see it in the resume builder. And recently, I know for certain that the Coast Guard required it, and a lot of positions in the FAA, they required a resume builder format. So you might as well have one of those uploaded into USA Jobs. Next, you have to actually use the search bar that's on top of USAJobs.gov. And this is because the filters, they're not a comprehensive list of all the filters. So the filters, you can navigate remote work, telework, maybe you don't want a security clearance, you can change all of that. But what you can't find, at least not right now, you cannot find the direct hire authority positions. So to actually find those positions, you actually have to type in direct hire in the search bar. And about a year ago, that was the way everyone was finding remote work positions. The remote work filter, it just came into existence maybe a year ago or a little bit more. But before that, if you wanted a remote work job, you actually had to type in the search bar, remote work. So do not be afraid of the search bar. Go ahead and put the words that interest you in there. If you have a certain type of experience, if you're looking for a certain type of position, write it in there. Next is the remote work and telework feature. This is really important if the only thing you're going to consider is 100% remote work. If that's the case, you click the little bubble and you run your search. And there's about 400 or 500 jobs that meet that criteria. Now, with the telework eligible, I wouldn't click that box. And the reason I wouldn't do that is not every job announcement is labeled correctly with the telework eligibility. Most administrative jobs, they will offer you a chance to telework at a certain point. So you might have to be there for 30, 60, 90 days. Maybe you even have to wait until after probation, but they should give you an option. This is something that you're going to have to discuss with your immediate supervisor and find out what the standard is for that office. But I wouldn't click this bubble because it could easily eliminate a lot of jobs that might interest you. Next is to check the service type of that job announcement. Like we talked about, the filters aren't comprehensive. You do not know necessarily if it's a competitive service job or an accepted service job, and you want to know this information. You want to have an idea of what you're getting into, because with competitive service, after 3 years, you're going to be granted tenure, and you're going to be able to compete under the competitive service for the majority of jobs. Now, with the accepted service jobs, you're not going to get the same thing. There is no tenure. It doesn't matter if you work 20, 25 years in an accepted service position, you're not getting tenure. Now, you could move from accepted to competitive if your agency has an interagency agreement, but for the most part, most people are trying to get into the competitive service. So when you are looking at the job announcement, look to the right-hand side and see exactly what service is this position in. Another thing to remember on USAJobs.gov, you have to take advantage of all the filter opportunities. There's filters such as location, job series, GS grade, what department or federal agency you want to work in, and you can adjust all of these filters. So make sure you're adjusting them and you're saving that search. One reason that people could care a lot about what federal agency they get into, they hear negative things. So SSA right now, they're under a negative spotlight. So maybe you don't want to work there. So they want to bypass those type of positions. Or if you're in the military, say you're retiring from the military after 20 years. Well, there's a 180-day waiting period before you can apply to a DoD job, a Department of Defense job. That doesn't mean that cooling off period exists for other federal agencies. You can apply to the Department of Treasury, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Justice. All these other federal agencies are open to you. But if you're a military member that's retiring, maybe you want to exclude DoD from your job search, unless you want to apply, because there's waivers too. So you can get a waiver. But if you don't want to deal or mess around with waivers, look at other agencies. Speaking about different federal agencies, you might want to know what's the best federal agency to work in and what's the worst one. If you want to know that, a ranking list just came out. And if you're interested in that, I want you to watch this video next. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.